Back in the 2018 NHL draft, Filip Zadina was looked at as one of the premier forwards in that draft class, having a great year with the Halifax Mooseheads and dominating, getting 7 goals in 7 games in the World Juniors. But now, 5 years later, Filip Zadina has been terminated from his contract by the Detroit Red Wings and now is left on the market as a 23-year-old former stud. But now we're left to answer what has happened with Zadina, what went wrong, and what could be next in Zadina's hockey career. Watch till the end for all the breakdown, all of the prospect talk, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this all throughout the year. You won't want to miss anything. Now, going back to that 2018 draft, here is where the problems started to lie. He was going into that draft throughout the year, projected as one of the top players, not even just the top forwards in the draft, and for a long time, especially after the World Juniors, was head-to-head with Andrei Svechnikov, and there was big battles between who was better, who would become the better player. I even made a video on this channel comparing the two and talking about both of their strengths and weaknesses. It was a big debate, and if there was a big debate over whether he should even go second overall. But what we saw on draft day was a big slip in Zadina's stock, and we ultimately saw him picked 6th overall by the Detroit Red Wings, which might not sound all that crazy, but back then was a humongous shock, especially again with how well he did in the World Juniors, how dominant he was throughout the entire season. To see him drop that low was surprising. But there was also massive confusion because of the players drafted ahead of him. Both Jesperi, Kotkaniemi, and Barrett Hayton were drafted 3rd and 5th overall to the Canadiens and the Arizona Coyotes respectively, but they were 2 players, 2 centers that were projected more in the 10 to 15 range. But you see Filip Zadina going behind them at 6th overall to Detroit, and that's where a lot of the questions started to rise. Why did this happen? And back then, how did the Red Wings get a steal like this? Nobody really expected that to happen, but this would kind of start to be the end for Filip Zadina's career just a little bit. The fact that he would slip even that much started to show some red flags. But even though there was that drop, there was still hope that Zadina could be that bright, young, amazing goal scorer for the Red Wings in the future and still be a franchise face for them. After all, he was looked at as a top 3 pick heading into the draft and dropped all the way down to number 6. So the Red Wings were getting a steal automatically, right? Well, that didn't quite happen, but it didn't quite start off horribly either. In his first season, he played 9 NHL games, getting 3 points, and played in 59 AHL games, getting 35 points, and looked pretty okay there. But here's the thing. In the U20 World Juniors, he got 1 assist, 0 goals for 5 in 5 games played, and the next year, he would continue to go between the Red Wings and the AHL. In the NHL that season, he got 15 points in 28 games, and was starting to look like, at least offensively, that he was starting to turn a little bit of a corner here. But then we go on to 2021, where of course we saw the shortened season, and in 49 games he got 19 points, and especially goal scoring wise was never able to find a groove. Only 6 goals in 49 games for what was once thought of as one of the better goal scoring prospects in the entire league. But the next 2 years after 2021 were the most important years in Zadina's career. Could he turn that page? Could he finally have a full, healthy 82 game season? Would he be a big part of that Red Wings offense and take those bigger steps? Well, in 2022 he played his biggest season yet, playing 74 games, but got 10 goals, 14 assists for 24 points. He was fine, he was okay, but he wasn't pushing the needle like he needed to, wasn't really giving the Red Wings an opportunity to put him higher in the lineup, and wasn't really giving them an excuse. There wasn't that great play, there wasn't that consistency, and then this last year in 2023 had a major injury, only played 30 games in the NHL, got 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points, and now we're pretty much right back to square one. And of course, it was officially confirmed that Zadina would go on to waivers, and after no NHL team claimed him, 0 NHL teams claimed him, he would get his contract terminated by Detroit and now is a complete free agent 5 years into being drafted into the Red Wings franchise. Just a complete, utter failure from everybody involved. But for Filip Zadina, a player that had true promise, true potential, and was looked at as an absolute steal at 6th overall. To see what he's done has been flat out disappointing, and to say he's been a bust so far would be the understatement of the friggin' century. The best way to describe it is that Filip Zadina just did not catch on into the NHL level, and at least so far with Detroit, didn't push the needle like he needed to. Even though he had great goal-scoring instincts and great opportunities around the net in his draft year, those opportunities and that finishing really shriveled up. That was, in my opinion, the best part of Filip Zadina's game, was that that goal scoring, was the intensity around the net, was getting into those great opportunities and using his shot in so many good ways. But we just saw that goal scoring evaporate more and more as we got away from his draft year. Again, 44 goals in 57 QMJHL games and 7 goals in 7 World Junior games. And then you flash forward to this last year where he had 3 NHL goals in 30 games. Filip Zadina was always a player that if he struggled, I thought would still be scoring goals at the very least. But we never saw that finishing truly be there at the NHL level. And that to me is almost the most disappointing part. The biggest strength of Filip Zadina just wasn't there throughout his entire career so far. But even though Zadina was getting chances and was a player that was still generating decently, especially this last season, again, if you don't have that finishing, it's not going to matter. And especially for a more offensive player like Zadina is, when you don't have that finishing, when you don't have that goal scoring, there's just no value there. And that's something that was maybe the biggest concerns back in his draft year, was maybe having that one-dimensionality, maybe not translating that goal scoring, maybe not translating those bigger aspects of his game to the NHL level. And we saw now how he dropped to 6th overall. We saw now how a lot of players, surprising players, were picked ahead of him. Even though Jesperi, Kotkaniemi, and Barrett, Hayton haven't been superstars yet, there are still players that have put so much better effort on the ice and have done so many better things than Filip Zadina has so far in his career. And now we see those warning signs all the way back from day one fully realized in his time with Detroit. Now, in saying this, sure, if you can get him at league min, I wouldn't really say it's a bad thing, but at the same time, Filip Zadina hasn't shown to have that improvement, hasn't shown to be able to work for that improvement at the NHL level, and he's had some fine seasons, he's had some pretty good highlight moments, but nothing that's been fully realized, nothing that has fully come together. And to me, that's on him. He's absolutely had the skill. He's absolutely had some of that talent and absolutely had that talent to translate to the NHL level, but it just hasn't been realized. And I don't think it's been worked on enough as it should. And I don't think there's been enough there to warrant still a roster spot with the Red Wings. It makes sense why they've gotten rid of him. Even if it is a bit harsh, it just didn't seem like Zadina was going to be anything for the Detroit Red Wings. Now, could he be something else for somebody else? We'll see, but that goal scoring needs to improve. That finishing needs to improve before all else, because right now the points he's putting up for an offensive forward, it's just not justifiable to keep around. Now, what is next for Zadina? Well, I do think we will see him sign, but I'm not sure if he'll get a one-way contract. I could absolutely see a situation where he gets a two-way contract, has a 1 year with a team, and tries to do as much as humanly possible. But I know for Zadina, I mean, giving up that much money on that buyout, he's going to want to get revenge. He's going to want to work as hard as possible. But this is really it. I mean, if Zadina isn't able to prove something next year, then it's over. I mean, there's really nothing that Zadina can salvage if next year is not the year. I think he knows that. We'll maybe see the work put in, but as of right now, Zadina definitely looks like one of the bigger busts that we've seen over the past 5 seasons. Now, as for teams that can actually go after him, I think a lot of teams make sense here. Obviously, the Chicago Blackhawks are a team that has so much room to give, and I think Zadina would be an interesting player to bring onto that franchise. Same thing with the San Jose Sharks. They're a team that maybe has a little bit less cap space, but on that forward group, it's pretty wide open, and I think Zadina could really do a lot of damage there too, as well as potentially the Nashville Predators, who have gone after a lot of big moves, trying to reset that culture. Maybe Zadina is a player that can still want to bring in, though, and be comfortable bringing in because of the culture changes they made. We'll see. But I think there's a lot of teams out there that I think should still have interest in Zadina, should still do their homework, and maybe see if they can make someone work. I mean, at the very least, he's still a player that if you get on a two-way contract, you could send down to the AHL perhaps, but really hope that he turns that page. And if he does, maybe you can get a third-line middle six forward there that can score goals, can play on the power play. But that hope, that dream of him being a first-line player, being a top 3 caliber player in the 2018 draft is pretty much officially over. I don't see how any team can salvage that type of talent out of Zadina right now, because it just doesn't seem like that's going to ever happen. And it's sad, man, because of the talent we saw, the excitement, the hype around Filip Zadina was incredible, and it was deserved. It was an amazing season he had back in 2018, and that hype leading up was amazing to watch. The problem is, you play in the QMJHL, you play in the World Juniors, you have great to play there against your peers, and the QMJHL is great against their peers in the CHL, but in terms of translating to the NHL, it has been a problem. And I will say, Zadina has definitely soured my opinion on QMJHL prospects, just because the league is a little more loosey-goosey. It's a lot less translatable to the NHL, and especially a league like the WHL right now. And to me, I think that's kind of setting up these higher skill, higher talent players that rely on that. it's kind of setting them up for a little bit more of failure, or at least better chances at failure. And to me, I think Filip Zadina is a prime example of a player that needed to go to some other league, still play in Europe perhaps in his draft year, might not have still given him the same hype, but it might have been better for his NHL career and might have been better for his translatability into the NHL and his preparation into the NHL, because he went into the pros very fast and it just doesn't seem like he got the time necessary to truly develop and truly get to that amazing level that I still think he had the talent to be. It's just a disappointing thing all around to see. We'll see if some team is able to salvage him, but it looks like, again, Filip Zadina will be one of the biggest mistakes the Red Wings have made draft-wise in a very long time. Let us know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about Filip Zadina and his career so far in Detroit and his career so far in the NHL? Where do you think he goes next? Which team do you think might sign him in the offseason this year? And do you think he can still salvage his career? Do you still think he can be a good player, or is he a complete bust? Let us know down below. And of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you enjoyed the breakdown. And of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get the Filip Zadina story out to them and click on this card up here, all the way up here, for all of my Trainer content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye.